it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. And yesterday, of course, it just got crazier again, just when you think it can't get any more crazy. It got more crazy, didn't it, when Charlie Kirk, a right-wing activist in America, was shot and killed while delivering, he wasn't delivering a speech, he was having debates. Now, you may not know much about Charlie Kirk. I certainly didn't know a lot about him. And my son did. He knew about him. You know, I think he's like someone that maybe younger people would know more about. Only 31 years old, married, 2 children, like the face of the right wing youth, if you like. You know, he's responsible for bringing a lot of young people over to the right wing side. You know, I don't like these expressions, right wing, left wing, really. We're going to talk about that in this video. We're always labeling people, you know, like people would say I was left wing. You know, of course, people get called lefties. You know, as if it's some sort of insult to be a socialist, or, you know, I'm proud of being a socialist and being left wing. But there are some things that I agree with sometimes that right wing, so-called right wing people say, and I've been looking into Charlie Kirk, and there are a lot of things that I don't agree with that he has to say. And there are a lot of things that I do agree with that he has to say. So, you know, why have we got to be labelled one way or another? To me, I'm just a citizen of this planet that we live in. I have my views. Some might be considered left-wing, some might be considered right-wing. But they're just views. They're just my personal views. And I've probably got views that would surprise you. Those of you who think of me as left-wing, there's certain views that I've got that might surprise you. And those of you who, you know, you'd be surprised what my views are. But what the most important thing is, of course, in any democratic society, is that you be able to express your views, as long as it's in a respectful way, as long as you're not inciting violence and things like that. I don't, you know, when people incite violence with their views, like calling on people to, you know, set fire to migrant hotels and things like that, that is not free speech. You know, that is incitement to violence. Free speech is saying what you think, you know, whether you agree with, I don't know, transgender people participating in the Olympics, or you don't agree with it, or you agree with abortion, or you don't agree with it, or whatever you agree with or you don't agree with, immigration, you know, you're entitled to your view as long as you're respectful and don't incite people to violence over it. Violence is a no-no in any circumstances, and that is why this is so awful, whichever side of the political fence you're on, that Charlie Kirk should be shot and killed. At the end of the day, he's a human being, 31 years old, married, 2 children. Whatever his views are, the answer to deal with people who have different views than you is not to shoot them, because then that just makes your cause, whatever you, because we don't know yet who shot him. It's the shooter is still at large, has not been apprehended. So we don't know a motive. You know, we presume that the motive, everybody's presuming that it was some left-wing loony, you know, who killed him for his views, but we don't actually know that, to be honest. We don't know exactly the reasons. But it was a very, very, it's horrible. Of course, the video is all over social media. I won't be showing that. But, you know, a lot of people have shown it. It's so disrespectful to show this horrible video. Anyway, I was up most of the night as soon as I saw that news, and then saw that he had in fact died, because initially, you know, it was just coming through that he had been shot. And then there was some hope, you know, there was some talk that he'd been stabilized in the hospital. But then when you see the video, you can see that he was probably dead before they took him off the stage. He was probably dead instantly. It's a very strange thing. It was a very good shot let's say, whoever shot this guy, they hit exactly the right spot, his carotid artery, and it seemed like apparent immediately that he would be dead if you do watch the video. So who did do it, and who was such a good shot? So when we have there's a lot of things that we're going to look at. One of which is the sort of plan of the campus and where they think that the person shot from. Tell you what, there must have been a bloody good shot to shoot from that distance, so accurate, right in his carotid artery. That, that's not what just anybody could do, put it that way. So it makes you wonder, are they ex-service people, or if that is where they shot from, of course, because we don't actually know yet the proper circumstances. So it reminded me a lot of the Kennedy assassination, the JFK assassination. This guy's there, ironically enough, talking about gun crime. And that's exactly what he was talking about as this shot rang out. And also, it makes you wonder, there was absolutely no security at this event, apparently. No security whatsoever. One of the witnesses said they didn't even check the tickets. There was nobody checked anybody's bags or checked for weapons, it wasn't, I suppose, maybe Charlie Kirk, although he's quite famous in America, maybe he's, obviously if Donald Trump was speaking, especially after his assassination attempt, you can bet there would be a lot of security, but apparently there was no security. So that's going to be something that has to be looked at. So apparently Charlie goes around, or he went around all the, he appeals especially to the youth in America. He goes around the university campuses to talk. He gets into open debate. I've seen some of his debates with people. He, as I say, he's got a lot of views that are not my views, but he's open about his views at least. And, he encourages people to debate. So suppose that's a good thing. And now he's been shot dead. So where does that leave America? I think America, really, ever since Trump got in the first time, there's like a civil war going on in America that's just not been declared. Because although Donald, of course, is incensed and saying, this is disgusting, but Donald has encouraged violence himself. It's like with Donald, it's, violence against the Democrats seems to be okay, but obviously not against his people. And of course, the uprising in Washington when Donald Trump lost the election and Joe Biden won the election, and people were actually worried, would he even leave? And then there was the insurrection, and he supported that. He's never condemned it. He doesn't condemn violence as if it's against his own people. He only condemns it if it's against his people. He doesn't condemn it against others. He was also very ungracious about when Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, her and her husband got burgled, didn't he? And her husband got injured. He was like not sympathetic about that at all. And most of, so the thing is, this disregard for people's personal safety, it's not just exclusive to lefties. This is Donald Trump, in my opinion, that started it all. And now you're in a situation in America where people just can't debate about anything. They can't debate. It's just, you're an idiot. You shouldn't believe. And not only that, not even just calling people idiots, but actually, aggressive towards them, violent towards them, if their views aren't agreed with. It's very dangerous state of affairs, and it's sort of infecting Britain, I think, as well, and probably other countries. It's just like, this is my view. If you don't agree with it, I'm going to have a riot, or I'm going to attack you, or I'm going to shout at you. Nobody seems to just be able to have normal debates anymore. And that's what, political society is, the battle for ideas. But your battle for ideas is not supposed to be propagated by violence. It's supposed to be propagated by words. It's a very scary world, isn't it? When everybody's so angry about everything. The anger. It's like you could just light a touch paper and the whole world would go up in flames. Anyway, so that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about who is Charlie Kirk, for any of you who didn't know much about him, what we know so far about the shooting, etc. And as I say, the shooter has not been apprehended yet. So, let's hope they catch whoever it was soon. A couple of people were put into custody, but they were released, and it was decided they didn't have anything to do with it. So why they were even put into custody in the first place, I'm not sure. But it also seems strange to me that they haven't apprehended the person either yet. It's unusual for it to take so long. But of course, because the security wasn't good at this event, they weren't prepared, and I don't know, but it just seems to me quite a long time. So first of all, I want to say my thank yous. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. I know you'll leave your comments in the chat. Please be respectful to me and to the other chatters. What else? A special thank you to my members. We've got members live tonight. Today is a Thursday, so I hope you'll join me in the members live, where we chat about different things. I've got some sort of personal, more drama in the Vicky Marie Chat's house. Every day is a drama, one way or another. There's more drama yesterday. I'll be talking about that tonight in members. And we'll look at lighter subjects, and we normally have a laugh. And, I think we'll probably be talking about the paranormal, or we'll be watching some body cams, or, just try something away from the very serious crime that we talk about. So why not join us for that? Why not become a member and join us for the members live tonight? Thank you to those of you who've sent me Ko-fis, who have PayPal'd me, who've sent super stickers, sent me nice emails, left nice comments. Thank you for any way you've supported my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you. Right, let's take the banner off. Take the like and subscribe off. So yeah, in my opinion, whatever your views, as long as they're not inciting violence against anybody or hatred, everyone's entitled to them, aren't they? And you should not be shot for having, maybe his views are a little bit, not what I would agree with. I'm not going to shoot him because of it, just as I wouldn't be expect to be shot for my views. Why is the answer always shooting? But one thing I do want to say, and that we're going to look at, Charlie was an avid protector of the right to bear arms, etc. So, how many shootings do there have to be? Because at the same time as this happened with Charlie, there was another school shooting going on. So how why can this not be realised? Now, I know that if somebody wants to cause damage, they don't need to use a gun to do it. But they wouldn't have been able to get to Charlie without a gun, would they? This is a sniper with a gun. So I know it wouldn't eradicate violence whatsoever. Violence will always happen, unfortunately. But guns make it so easy, don't they? They just make it so easy. And there's, it's not rocket science, is it? You just have to make it as difficult as possible. You'll never eradicate violence completely, of course not. But you can make it a little bit more difficult. What else did I want to say? Oh, yeah. So now I'm going to say hello to everyone. Hello, lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hi, trolley dollies. Had a few of those lately. I think sometimes when you're talking about contentious subjects, you're always likely to get trolls. That's fine. No problem. Enjoy the video. I hope you enjoy the video, and thank you for helping my algorithm. I'm not going to comment on any trolls that come on today. It's just life's too short. I can't be bothered. You just want attention anyway. What next? Oh, yeah. So now I'm going to come in. Oh, hello, replay crew. Thank you for watching, if you're watching on replay. And I'm going to come into the chat now and say hello to those of you who are brave enough to venture into the chat. Okay. So, hi, Angel. Hi, Princess. It has to stop, doesn't it? Hi, Fluffy. Exactly. A sad day, whatever your political views. I mean, this guy was married with 2 kids, so on a personal level, whether you agree with his political views or not, he's still got a right to express them, just as everyone has. So it's not a good day at all for anyone. Hi, Annie. Okay, so let's start off by just having a look at what happened and a little bit of information about Charlie. I don't know if any of you knew who he was. I didn't. I'll be honest. I don't really follow right-wing American politics. It's enough coping with Donald. I can't cope with others. But as soon as I mentioned it to number one son, he knew exactly who he was. I think young people do know about him. So he was 31 years old. So, he had a long future ahead of him. Apparently, he's a very, very good friend of the vice president, J.D. Vance. And, of course, there's a massive age difference between him and Donald. But Donald has a lot of good things to say about him. Donald will use this for political advantage, just like he always does. But it's like he's probably, and of course there's all this furore about the Epstein thing at the moment with Donald Trump. So he's probably, that's gives him something else to talk about. Of course, he's blaming it all on the Democrats, all the Democrats' fault. But, he's not beyond inciting violence himself. So he needs to be accountable and look at what he's done, encouraging people to be violent, especially with the Washington insurrection. I think that's where it all changed. In fact, I think actually the world changed in general, didn't it, after COVID? Everyone's went loopy in COVID, didn't they? And it's created this sort of real resentment, towards governments and for locking them up and doing this and doing that. COVID really did change the world, didn't it, in so many ways? And now we've got all these mental health issues that anyone who had mental health problems before the COVID lockdowns has certainly got worse after the COVID lockdowns. It's just like this chaos, it feels like, that we're living in. Don't remember it being this chaotic before, or maybe it was and I just didn't notice it. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think COVID has had a lot to do with people going a bit loopy, or, do you think it was always coming anyway? No, but America does have a history of political assassinations. There's been loads. It was Lincoln, was it, the first one? Ronald Reagan was shot, wasn't he? Although he survived. JFK, of course, and then another of the Bobby Kennedy, was it, that was shot? Oh, there's been so many. And then, of course, recently there was an assassination attempt on Trump. I think if you get through your presidency without an assassination attempt, it's more, it's like there's a history of politics. That's how Americans, unfortunately, with all due respect, and I don't mean to disrespect any Americans that are watching, but is that how they deal with things? Or is it just because they have guns and things that makes it easier to do? Would that be happening all over? I don't think a prime minister has ever been assassinated in Britain. I mean, there was the IRA bomb, the attempt to kill the cabinet, Mrs. Thatcher's cabinet, wasn't there? At the hotel, the bomb in the hotel. Have we had any? Somebody, hope maybe if somebody there who can remember. I can't remember any assassinations of British prime ministers. Was the one send a lot? Was one of them many, like centuries ago maybe, but not in modern day politics, as far as I can remember. And I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be stood corrected if anyone can think of one. So I don't know. In other countries like Australia, are presidents ever assassinated? Have you had a president been assassinated? Or any politician? I mean, we have had politicians who have been stabbed in the UK. David Amos, Joe Cox. It's quite dangerous. But these are recent. There's this climate of, I don't know, hatred towards politicians as well. It just never used to be like that. And now 10 Downing Street is protected like a fortress. It never used to be like that, did it? People have been moved back, so you can't get anywhere near the actual door of number 10 now because of all the, the violence or the death threats that politicians receive, etc. It's not good. It's not good because whatever you think of politics, it's not good to threaten someone's life just because you don't agree with their political views or what they're doing. That there's no place for that in a modern democratic society, is there? Not in my opinion, anyway. So as I say, I don't know how much you know about Charlie. Hi, David. Yeah. See, I don't agree with that, Princess, because I don't think we can govern ourselves, because you'd end up with somebody, there'd still be disagreements. Society's too big now. Not talking about a tiny little, trying to control 1,000 people or whatever. You're talking about millions of people. That people aren't going to be governed without the police or without. That's my belief. I think if there was no state whatsoever, people would not govern themselves. You and I we would stick to, and probably a lot of people would stick to basic norms that you don't hurt other people. But there'll be people out there that won't stick by that. They just won't, because some people are bad. And that's why the state was invented in the first place. And as I think I've said on the Desi Freeman videos, there are lots of things that are wrong about the state, and I'll be the first to agree with that, but I don't believe you can replace it with no state whatsoever. I just don't believe that, but that's just my opinion. But some people do, but I just think even just during COVID, just along my street, one street with 40 houses, people were breaking the COVID laws, and then so you get people who didn't agree with the COVID laws. You got people that did agree with the COVID laws, so they would get angry with each other. They were all arguing. That was just in one street over COVID. Imagine arguing about other things and what would happen the first time that you thought that somebody had abused your child or whatever. Who would you go to? You take justice into your own hands, but then would you do that and then you wouldn't know for sure it was them? It's I just don't think that's possible. It's ideal. It'd be nice, wouldn't it, if we could all play together nicely, but I don't think that'll ever happen personally, to be honest. Okay, so let's have a look about this guy. As I said, I don't know if you know anything about him. I didn't know anything about him. So it's interesting to see. So who was Charlie Kirk? So Kirk was one of the most prominent conservative activists. Now, that's probably why I don't know much about him, because I'm not a conservative, but I am interested in politics. I studied politics at university. I have a degree in politics. I've studied American politics. I don't understand them at all. I think it seems like a very weird system, but, they probably think our system is weird. So, yeah, I didn't know about this guy at all, really. So he's a trusted ally of President Trump. He co-founded Turning Point USA, which is a non-profit conservative advocacy group, when he was only 18 years old. Well, he's only 31 when he died, so that's 13 years ago then. A bit of a political whiz kid, I think you could say then, to start this non-profit conservative advocacy group when he was 18. So talking about 13 years ago, so that would have been 2025. God, I'm crap with numbers. Is that 2012? That would have been. Anyway, this group grew into the country's largest conservative youth movement, and over the years it became a central player in a network of pro-Trump influencers, often described as the face of the MAGA movement. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, I mean, you do need these youth groups because, you know, the youth of the future, where whatever stage, you know, whatever year we're living in, the future is the youth. You know, they're the ones that are going to be voting in the future after we've gone, and you have to hope that you know, the legacy that you leave behind is a good one. You know, this is it to me with politics or, you know, societal things like that. You're always trying to, you know, put forward a positive message for society. So more people out there are good than bad. It's just that obviously on our channel, you know, true crime channel, we're going to talk about bad people a lot. And sometimes you can think, oh my God, you know, everybody's just horrible. But of course, that is not true. I think there are basic problems in society at the moment, but there always will be, because I think society, just by its definition, is not a perfect, you know, there is no utopian society where everything is brilliant, everyone loves each other and bad things don't happen. There's always going to be psychopaths, for example. You know, that's another thing. You know, if a state is running, you know, if a society is running itself, what are you going to do with the psychopaths? What are you going to do with the sociopaths and those kind of people that hurt people? And, you know, what's going to happen to them? Just going to let them run riot? And those are the sort of people that will rise to the top of society as well. Because most people, I think most decent people, they don't want to be bothered with politics. You know, they just want to look after, be with their families, go to work, come home, you know, enjoy themselves on their days off or whatever. They don't want to be involved in politics. They don't want to get involved in lawmaking. They don't want to get involved in, you know, the nitty gritty of things. They really don't. So the people that rise to the top will always be the ones that are in love with the power and the control. You know, they'll rise to the top, and good people will let them because they don't want to do it. So they'll, you know, it's not that they want bad people to be in charge, but they're just like grateful that somebody else is taking the lead. And this is the problem. And those people that want to take the lead, they are quite often, you know, power freaks, aren't they? And that's not just now, that's always been. You look at like Napoleon and Hannibal and all these people, you know, in Rome, the Roman Empire is run by lunatics, really. You know, they weren't. It's just, you know, or even successful governments and things like that. The people that rise to the top are quite often, psychopaths, sociopaths, control freaks. Most normal people who are nice people, they don't want to rise to the top. They just want to go about their lives. They just want the basic things in life. So Trump often credited Charlie Kirk with bringing many young voters and voters of colour over to his side during the 2024 presidential campaign. He was also a sharp critic of mainstream media, and he threw himself into culture war battles over race, gender, and immigration. His provocative style won him a loyal support base, but also fierce opposition. Now, there are a lot of left-wing politicians out there, you know, seem to be crowing with glee about this. You know, it's like, you know, saying, oh, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, all that kind of thing. That's not the thing to say either. Even though, you know, he was in favour of guns and this, that and the other, and we're going to look at some things that he said which seem sort of very poignant now. When he said things he said about schools, when he's been questioned about school shootings, and he virtually saying, well, this is just a byproduct of the fact we're free to bear arms. You know, it's just like one of those things, just got to suck it up as part of the Second Amendment. You know, and now he's become a victim of gun crime himself. So it's quite ironic, really, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, but, you know, as far as I'm concerned, even if somebody I really did not like like Donald Trump. I wouldn't want him to be shot either. Don't want anyone to be shot. Don't want anyone to be killed. I just want debate in politics, and at the end of the day, you have to respect democracy. I don't like Donald Trump. Well, I'm not American anyway, but if he got into power, well, he was voted into power. You've got to accept it. That's what democracy is about. It's like Brexit. I didn't believe in Brexit, but they had a referendum, and the Brexiteers voted by a slim majority for Brexit. Well, you've got to accept it, because if it would have been the other way, you would have. That's the whole point of having votes, isn't it? Anyway, you can see he's young, he's charismatic, he's handsome. You can see that he would appeal to a lot of people. He became a close friend of the president's oldest son, Donald Trump Jr., and the two travelled together to Greenland in January. He also emerged as an early supporter of Vice President J.D. Vance, as Trump was deciding whether the senator would be his running mate. He had 5.5 million followers on the platform X, and he hosted the Charlie Kirk Show, a podcast and radio program that reached more than 5,000 listeners each month. He made regular appearances on Fox News, including a recent guest co-hosting slot on Fox and Friends. And according to a report by the New York Times, he never pursued a role within the administration. His aim was to reshape the Republican Party and more broadly US politics. He said, "We want to transform the culture." Now, I think you could safely say he was anti-woke, he was anti-trans, he was anti-immigration, he was anti, all those typical anti-abortion, all those sort of typical things that you associate with the right wing. So he built a fortune through his popular podcast, his frequent speaking engagements and books, including his 2020 bestseller, The MAGA Doctrine. He posted constantly on social media, offering a right-wing perspective on a plethora of issues. Now, I was just going to say, actually, I noticed on his X, when I looked at his X, the murder of Irina, poor Irina, the lady who was murdered on the train. He made a lot of political capital out of that. I don't actually like that. He said, "Will Kane is 100% right. We've been propagandized by liars and fakers in the media to believe that America is a vicious, racist country, and indiscriminate attacks on black people by whites happen all the time. But the numbers tell the truth. Black attacks on white people." It's taking me now to Twitter. Blacks being only 13% of the population. So black attacks on white people happen 3 times more often than white on black crime. Why don't the media tell the truth? Why lie when these lies result in innocent people dying? Now, he's posted quite a lot about Irina's murder. He's made quite a lot out of it. Don't like that politicizing, can't say that word, of tragic murders like Irina's. I mean, the thing is, he's anti-immigrant as well, and she was an immigrant fleeing the Ukraine. So, they're very critical of Ukraine as well, aren't they? And supporting Ukraine. But, they just use whatever story suits them. So what do we know about the shooter? And this is important because we actually don't hardly know anything about the shooter. It's, as I say, I'm going to show you the sort of plan of the campus. Seems like far away to me. The accurate shot, can you imagine? Unless it was just an accident that it was so accurate that he hit his carotid artery. Or was it someone that was such a sharp shooter that they could do that? And that suggests more somebody professional, doesn't it, than some student who's annoyed with it. So on Wednesday evening, they did have a person of interest in custody, but there's been no charges. And there have been 2 people released after officials found they had no links to the shooting. Bo Mason, the head of the Utah Department of Public Safety, said a suspect was described as being dressed in all dark clothing. Only 1 shot was fired as well. So, that, gosh, I mean, you know, were they so, you know, 1 shot from that distance? It's incredible, really, I think. Almost seems too incredible, if that makes sense, that somebody, it has to be somebody who's really good at shooting, put it that way. So only 6 officers working the event, and more than 3,000 people in attendance. No security, you know, no control. Not, I say, this lady who was talking, who attended the event and saw the shooting, she said we didn't even have our tickets checked. But he had a private security team with him. This is a dark day for our state, tragic date for our nation. I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. Well, you know, you don't actually know that yet, Governor Cox, until the person's actually apprehended. I don't think you should really make statements like that. I mean, it probably is, to be fair, it probably is a political assassination, but we don't know. Now, is this where we could see the campus? Let's have a look. I'm going to show you. Oh, let's have a look. So this is what Trump had to say. Oh, come on, stop doing
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there has never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the 2 young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible.
Now, he's just reading that from a thing, isn't it? I tell you, he's not very well, Donald Trump. I've thought it for a while. He doesn't look well. He doesn't sound well. He's reading direct. You know, you think he could have really given a spontaneous speech with just a few bullet points over something like this. But he's reading off the thing, and he's very stilted. And just when he says this about, encouraging violence, and then he starts talking about like the radical extra left. He does it all the time. All the time. Incites people. You know, he can't talk. You know, it's like he could have given a more conciliatory speech in the sense of, look, this is a time for all Americans to stand together. We won't have this attack on free speech. There's so many other ways he could have given this speech, but he's not. It's just stoking the fire, making it even worse. This is a terrible thing that's happened. And most, even left-wing politicians, they've come out and said how terrible it is. This has got to stop now. Yet not him. He's still inciting divisions. Truly awful.
For the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans.
Yes, he only mentions, anyway, never mind. But yeah, some people there in chat saying about it doesn't feel right. Is this a distraction? I have seen people online calling it a psyops and everything to distract from the wars, to distract from Epstein, the Epstein thing. You know what? Anything's possible in this crazy world, isn't it? Anything is possible. I think this is it. We're now living in a world we don't know what the truth is anymore. We don't know what's true, what isn't true, what to believe, what not to believe. I mean, I always introduce my videos, what a crazy world. It is a crazy world. Sometimes you think, are you better off just living your life, going to the pub, going to bingo, doing not getting interested in politics and that. But I enjoy politics, and I used to. I mean, I don't think you could call it enjoy nowadays. But yeah, maybe it is a psyops. Maybe it is a distraction. Who knows? Could have been it reminds me a lot of the JFK shooting. Could be Trump's people themselves up there. Honestly, nothing would surprise me. I'm not saying it was. Please don't. There'll be people going, oh, how dare you say that? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying nothing, nada would surprise me anymore in this mad world. Definitely nothing would surprise me. But of course, we'll never know. I mean, I think that's another thing. We'll never know, will we?
To commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died. The values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence.
And that, oh, God, all of a sudden now it's all, the word of God and blah. Jesus definitely would not be a pro the ICE raids and things like that. It wouldn't, for God's sake. It's obvious that, you can't. That's another thing, using religion, just the bits that suits you. Look at the Pope, what he's saying about the wars and everything. Jesus would not approve of all of the way they're dealing with immigrants, etc. It's just not right. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not just. It's not what you'd expect from a decent society. Yes, there's lots of problems with immigration, of course, and it always has to be addressed. It has to be controlled. There are bad immigrants, like there are bad Americans. Same in Britain, there are bad immigrants. There are good immigrants. There are bad British people. You can't this scapegoating of people in the name of God and Jesus. Please. Ridiculous.
Silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory. May God watch over his family. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Sorry. So that's Trump. That's what Trump's had to say about it. You know, make of it what you will. A lot of people love Trump. I know that. A lot of people be angry because I don't. But there you go. That's just my opinion on Trump. So both Democrats and Republicans have quickly denounced the shooting on social media and in Congress. Joe Biden said there's no place for this violence. It must end now. Jill and I are praying for Charlie Kirk's family and loved ones. The former Vice President Kamala Harris wrote, I condemn this act. We must work together to ensure this does not lead to more violence. I think this is just the beginning. Well, it's not even the beginning in America, but it gets worse now. And J.D. Vance said, eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called him a dear friend. The White House commented. Anyway, what I'm trying to find now really is obviously a lot of Melania has commented. What I'd like to find really is the plan. Oh, and Benjamin Netanyahu, the biggest monster that you can imagine, who's responsible for the deaths of so more people than you can count. So the other thing about Charlie is he was very pro-Israel. Very pro-Israel. That's another thing I wouldn't have agreed with him on. And not being pro-Israel, before anyone jumps and goes, oh, are you pro, Palestine? I'm not pro anything. I'm pro-life. Benjamin Netanyahu is a monster. And that doesn't mean to say that I agree with Hamas, because they're monsters too. They're all monsters. You don't have, just because you don't like one side doesn't mean that you love the other side. This is another thing. It's not all about sides. You can be pro-humanity. Just don't kill babies, whether you're Hamas or you're Netanyahu. He does it in the name of, authenticity. He's a horrible man. Horrible man. And of course, he was big mates with Charlie Kirk. So that could put me off Charlie Kirk a little bit because he was so pro-Palestine. Anyway, he says he was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted friend of Israel. He fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. Ooh. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel, but sadly that visit will not take place. We lost, oh God, it takes me to X, hang on. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will have a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. So as I say, it doesn't endear me to Charlie that Benjamin Netanyahu thinks it's great, unfortunately. So Keir Starmer has Turning Point posted is George W. Bush. So these are all the the plaudits, the Turning Point, of course the place that he founded, the non-profit right-wing youth group that he founded. Keir Starmer, American author Stephen King. The motivation of the man who shot Charlie Kirk isn't clear, although he's probably mentally unstable. What is clear is it's another example of American gun violence. Stephen King, he's a Democrat, isn't he? He's very anti-Trump. So where can I find, where was I looking at? Right, I'm going to put that one down. Somewhere I saw a plan. Oh, right. Now the next thing I want to look at, oh, it's here, I think. Is it here on the Al Jazeera? Nope, it's not on that one. There's something that I was watching. So yeah, apparently a single shot was here. Now you have a look at this and tell me, this would have been a difficult shot, wouldn't it? You're talking about a single shot that was fired. This is the campus. That was everybody running away. I mean, you can imagine the panic. But as I say, one shot just seems to me incredible. So if you look at this, this is where he was sitting. And he was under like in Spain we call them toldos. You know, he was under a canopy. So, and there were other people on the stage. So it wasn't like an easy shot. And they reckon that this is where the figure was seen on the roof of this centre. So it was 130 metres. Don't you think that's a lot? You know, that'd have to be a pretty sharp shooter to just take one shot, and to hit right in the carotid artery. I mean, it's like, didn't even have to take another shot. It's got to be a professional. I think, one way or another. Whatever the reason was for shooting Charlie, but that has got to be a professional. If that's what happened, and they shot one shot to a man who's sitting under a canopy, surrounded by other people. There were other people there on that stage, and this shooter has taken one shot and hit him right in the very place where it would kill him instantly. Well, it could have been in his head. Maybe he was aiming for his head, and he ended up. Maybe it's just accident of where he actually hit him, but just seems amazing to me. They've got to be a professional one way or another. You know, if that was some college kid with a grudge, they're not going to be that sharp on target, even if they've been practicing. You know, that you're talking about, that is somebody who's definitely professional one way or the other. As you say, MI5, FBI, Secret Service, you know, ex-serviceman, possibly. Maybe it's an ex-service person with a grudge or whatever, but definitely somebody who knows about shooting. That is not just by accident that he caught him in the carotid artery. If that's what happened, of course, what we've got to remember is we're still getting information. We don't know exactly if that is what happened. That's what they're saying, where they think the shooter was. Seems like a very long way away to me. So if that is what happened, that has to be a professional. So yeah, he was sitting around 130 meters away from the Losay Centre when he was shot. A dark shape appeared to be seen on the roof of the centre when it happened. We've plotted the scene on the map above. And BBC verifiers examined social media footage of people claiming to show a shooter on the roof of the building at Utah Valley University. But it cannot be verified when the clip was filmed. So there he is on one of his it's pretty incredible, isn't it, really? It is pretty incredible. And as I say, the video is unfortunately freely available on social media, and no justification for political violence, says Starmer. Yeah, is that what happened? I'm going to try and find, Now then there was like some chatter released, some police chatter, and they were saying that they thought that the person had left they must have been seen leaving the campus. There he is again. J.D. Vance said he was a true friend. Sister of murdered British MP Jo Cox condemns the violence. Yeah, you shouldn't be violent towards politicians. You know, if you agree with them, don't agree with them, whatever. And yeah, now Schwarzenegger is a very ardent anti-Republican, isn't he? Because he's an immigrant who's done well in America and contributed a lot to American society. But he said we must walk back from extremes. It's true. Extremes are not good. Okay. Now, I will try and show you a bit of the video. I won't be showing the full video, but of what happened. And you'll see how, it's incredible, really, how this shooter managed to, hit him from all that distance. But another thing I just want to show you, here are some of the things that he stood for. Now, I'm not saying that this means he should have been shot, but they're quite, they're views that you could see would incense people, but they're his views to have, aren't they? At the end of the day. So he said that gun deaths were unfortunately worth it to preserve the Second Amendment. He said that transgender identity was a mental disease needing brain treatment. He refused to use pronouns. He said, I will not call a man a woman. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with any of these, by the way. I'm just saying these are things that he said. He demanded a nationwide ban on gender-affirming care. He quoted scripture about homosexuality as an abomination, deserving death. He called Martin Luther King Jr. a myth and said the Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake. He spread COVID-19 misinformation and likening masks and vaccine mandates to medical apartheid. He suggested mass incarceration as a fix for the housing crisis. He advocated for public televised executions, even for children to watch. He dismissed black competence and made demeaning statements about black women. He claimed that Michelle Obama and other supporters of affirmative action lacked the brain processing power to understand arguments on policies. He also made undermining comments towards black pilots, and he said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. So, they're very contentious things that he said. There was one more, actually. Yeah, now, he promoted the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, which I didn't know anything about. I don't know if you know about the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, but I had a look at it on Wikipedia. So the Great Replacement or replacement theory is a debunked white nationalist, far-right conspiracy theory, originally espoused by French author Renaud Camus. The original theory states that with the complicity or cooperation of replacist elites, the ethnic French and white European populations are at large being demographically and culturally replaced by non-white peoples, especially from Muslim majority countries through mass migration, demographic growth, and a drop in the birth rate of white Europeans. Now, I do think that white Europeans aren't having enough children, but that's their fault. Have more children. If you're whinging about Muslims taking over because they're having too many children, well, you have more children then. They're not telling you not to have more children. It's, white Europeans are deciding not to have more children. So, I sort of agree with that, because I do think, people need to have more children. I do believe it. I'm sorry, probably people are shouting and go, wow, that's what I believe. People should have more children, and they should go to church more. In Britain especially, it's a secular society. People don't go to church. And then they sort of look down on the Muslims because they have their strong faith. Well, it's not the Muslims' fault that you haven't got a strong faith. Get your faith back then. Start, if you're worried about Christianity being obliterated, then go to church and have more children. Otherwise, don't bleat about it. So, since then, similar claims have been advanced in other national contexts, notably in the United States. So, all this is going on in the background of everything that's happening in America, and we've got this sort of, battle between, instead of just thinking they're all people, it's not blacks against whites, is it? It's like people. I hate all this divisions. Concentrate on the real things that matter. Concentrate. What is the government doing? How is the government taking away your liberty? Don't concentrate, on fighting against black people or gay people or transgender people, or, these are all distractions, I think, from anything that the state is doing that it shouldn't be doing. You should always be vigilant of the state. I'm not although I believe in the state, because I just think there's no alternative, doesn't mean to say that I think you should just let it do what it wants and not be vigilant about it. But I don't think people are vigilant of the state. They're too busy worrying about the immigrants or the this or the that or all the different distractions. And society's fragmented. The blacks against the white, men against women, transgender against heterosexuals or homosexual. Stop splitting. We're all just people. The foundation of humanity is we are people. We might have different sexualities, we might have different religions, but we're all people. We all care about our families. None of us want to die. We know we're going to die one day, but none of us want to die in a war or whatever. Nobody wants to do that. Don't let the state divide and rule you. That is one trick of the state. I've read quite a lot, when I was at university, I did a lot of political philosophy, and, when you, even then, don't mean even then when I was at university, but a lot of the books that I read, like about Machiavelli, and then you've got the Social Contract with Rousseau and all the different right-wing philosophers about how the state was created, etc. Procopius' secret diaries about the Roman Empire. I've read all those. And these shenanigans of the state have been going on since day one of, society ever coming together to create a bit of a government or a king or queen or whatever. These things have always happened, so look at the state, concentrate on them, don't concentrate on hating your neighbour. You should be looking up. What's the state doing? Not looking around you or down, especially. A lot of people look down, don't they? Look down on the homeless. They look down on drug addicts, or they look down on alcoholics. These are just people trying to cope with life, and they've fallen into whatever state for whatever reason, become an addict. They're not the people you should be looking at. You should be looking up. What are the people up there doing to protect your safety, or to help these people with mental health issues or with addictions? That's what the state is there for. Society created a state to protect them, but it's turned out now it's like the state is all in it for itself. Anyway. Yeah. Exactly, Bluebell. We're here for a short time. We just want peace. Most people, they just want to get up, live their lives. As I say, protect their families, go to work, have enough money left over from paying their bills to actually have some social life, do some fun things as well as work. They want to. I think the most important thing is people do want to feel safe, and they want to feel safe, and that their families are safe. They don't want to worry when their young people go out for a night out that they're not going to come home because they're going to get stabbed or raped or murdered or whatever. They don't want to think that they're going to get on a train on the way home from work and get stabbed by someone with mental health issues who has never, given proper care and, taken off the streets. The thing is, the people in the state, they don't ride public transport. They don't give a shit about public transport, because of the safety of public transport, because they're riding around in a limo all the time, or at very least they're driving or whatever, so they don't have to get on public transport. So they don't have to worry if public transport is safe or not. Just they don't care. Most people that climb high in the state and everything, they don't really care about how normal people live their lives, and I'll say whether they're safe or not. They're not out there living on these estates that are no-go areas for the police. They're living in their nice sort of house somewhere in suburbia or in the countryside or whatever. They don't have to worry about all that. But most people, that's what they worry about the most. They're worried probably about finances, because at the end of the day, you've got to have a roof over your head, you've got to pay your bills and all those things. So you've got to be able to do that one way or another, whether it's by work or if you get help by benefits. Benefits are there. I'm a believer in benefits. Benefit system is good. But then, it shouldn't be a way of life, though. It's for emergencies. The benefit system was created so that people didn't end up in the workhouse when they were in between jobs, or if they couldn't work, or if they were sick or whatever. And that is, we need benefits in society, because people do fall on hard times, or people do, end up with illnesses, either mental illnesses or physical illnesses that mean they can't work. They should get benefits, but it shouldn't be a way of life for people, that people get better. There's probably a lot of people out there who can work and probably would feel better if they were working, to be honest. But you've got to make it worth it for people to work as well. People aren't going to work for less money than they get on benefits. That's the other thing. It's a big thing, isn't it? It needs a whole new sort of way of looking at it. But most importantly, safety, isn't it? If you're not safe when you go out, or your children aren't safe when they go out, or you're not even safe in your own home half the time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just terrible. You should be safe. To just live your life. Live your life in your little bubble with your family, friends, whatever. Do whatever you want. I mean, maybe you want to live on your own. You should be able to live on your own. And this thing about not being able to sort of walk your dogs in the early hours of the morning in remote places because you might get attacked and murdered. Terrible. You should be able to do that. You should be able to do anything you want. It shouldn't be you that's locked up and can't go out, and you're like a prisoner because you can't go anywhere because you don't feel safe. It should be the people that do these things that need sorting out, not released again and again. Anyway. Right. So where am I? So that's the great replacement theory that he believed in. So he had a lot of extreme views. I think what you would call extreme views. There are some things I do agree with him. As I say, you'd be surprised at some of the things maybe, even though I'm a lefty, according to a lot of people, I do, there are some things that I agree with that the right talk about. I don't think of myself as any political, but I have different opinions on different things. I think you can have crossovers. It's not that just that someone's left wing and so they believe all these things. and someone's right wing and they believe all these things. You know, you can have different views sometimes on the left or the right. You know, you're a person, not you know, stop labeling. There's a lot of labeling, I think. But one thing I do want to point out that he said, and I find this so ironic, he was in favour of guns, the Second Amendment. And in 2023, after a school shooting, he said that gun deaths were worth it to keep the Second Amendment. You know, it's ironic, isn't it? It was one of these Turning Point USA events at the Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, on October the 29th. And he said, gun deaths in exchange for the preservation of Second Amendment rights is part of America's reality. His comments came about 1 week after 3 children and 3 adults were killed at the Christian Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. And the Nashville mass, and bear in mind this is going back years, there have been loads of more shootings since then. The Nashville mass shooting was the 130th mass shooting in the United States in 2023, according to the Gun Violence Archive, an online database of gun violence incidents across America, using data collected from law enforcement, media, government, and commercial sources. The US has averaged more than 1 mass shooting per day since the start of 2023, as per the archive, which puts the nation on track to exceed the 647 recorded mass shootings of 2022. Well, I'm going to have a look at it in a minute and we'll see where it was last year, but 647 mass shootings in 1 year. You know, that's not right, is it? It's not right. It's not normal. It should not be. You send your child to school and you've got to worry. So they're not even safe at school. They're not safe at home. They're not safe out in the woods. They're not safe anywhere, not safe in their own garden. Disgusting, isn't it, really? People should be safe. And this is what he said. It's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. Come on, let's have a look at that.
Now, we must also be real. We must be honest with the population. Having an armed citizenry comes with a price. And that is part of liberty. Driving comes with a price. 50,000 people die on the road every year. That's a price. You get rid of driving, you'd have 50,000 less auto fatalities. But we have decided that the benefit of driving, speed, accessibility, mobility, having products, services, is worth the cost of 50,000 people dying on the road.
Yeah, I don't think you can compare driving with gun ownership, can you? Because driving is pretty much essential, you know, for a functioning society. Gun ownership is not essential. It's not essential. It is not like driving.
So we need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. You can significantly reduce them by having more fathers in the home, by having more armed guards in front of schools.
Jesus.
We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect.
Oh my God, the irony, isn't it, really, when you think about it? So I wonder what his wife thinks about that now and his children. You know, is it worth it? I mean, you are always going to have some deaths, that's for sure. You know, it'd be, as he says, it would be utopian to think that you could eradicate them completely. But you could cut them down. I mean, they're not just, you know, they're out of control. It's not just a few, is it? It's a lot.
Our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe. So then how do you reduce? Very simple. People say, oh, Charlie, how do you stop school shootings? I don't know. How did we stop shootings at baseball games? Because we have armed guards outside of baseball games. That's why. How did we stop all the shootings at airports? We have armed guards outside of airports. How do we stop all the shootings at banks? We have armed guards outside of banks. How do we stop all the shootings at gun shows? Notice there's not a lot of mass shootings at gun shows. There's all these guns because everyone's armed.
Yeah. Doesn't seem so funny now, does it? Doesn't seem so funny now that this poor guy is dead. Anyway. Now it's 430 feet, David, away, the shooter. 430 feet. The shooter was away, not 150 yards. No. Well, this is where the person was seen on the roof, 450 feet away. So that's why I'm saying, if that was the shooter, it had to be a bloody good shot, you know? So 450 feet away, the person on the roof that was seen. I'll show you that on here. Look, that's this centre. This is where he was shot. Look at the distance. 430 feet away. So, got to be somebody professional, in my opinion. So, what do you think about it all? I mean, you know, it's a tragedy, whichever way you look at it, whatever his views were, whether you agree with him, whether you don't agree with him. You know, this is a man, a father, a husband, you know, who didn't deserve, if it turns out that he was killed for his views, because as I say, we don't actually know that. It seems likely that he was shot for his views, but we don't know the full circumstances yet. Could be something that we don't expect comes up. Couldn't it? You know, anything might come out. I'll just check to see if there's been any news. But remember, this person, I will want to say this guy, but we don't know if it's a guy or not. A guy or not is still, no, he's still not been caught. So let's have a look at the video. I'm not showing the full video. So he was just addressing a question on shootings, on transgender shootings. He was literally just talking about that, and boom, just happened. See if I can find the video. I don't want to show the graphic one, the full video. Let's have a look at this. Let's see.
Enforcement sources have been telling us that this gunshot was fired from a rooftop a short distance away, or about 150 yards away from the courtyard where Charlie Kirk was speaking. And we have some videos of what appear to be a person on that particular rooftop. So I'm going to play this. I want your eye line to be up here by the roof because it's a little bit hard to see. But as we play this, the camera pans, and then you see that dot right there heading in the other direction away from where Charlie Kirk was speaking. I'm going to play it one more time, and if you can take it full, go ahead and do that. But here we go. This shot pans the crowd. The shot has been fired. People are ducking, and then right across the top, we see a figure run the other direction. I've got another video here from a different angle, different person, same rooftop, and it's going to zoom in and you can see what appears to be something or someone laying down there, kind of a dark figure. Now, according to law enforcement, they have closed caption video, security footage of a person wearing dark clothing on that rooftop, but it's rather grainy. Law enforcement is saying at this point that they have a person of interest in custody. So I wanted to kind of do a little bit of an explainer on what that means. The term person of interest is not an official legal term. It's a law enforcement term that they use. And it's when they have someone that they've detained who is not formally accused of a crime. They believe the person may have information about the crime, but it's kind of a broad term. It could apply to someone who might be directly connected, or it could apply to someone who might just be a witness. The term suspect is a legal definition. It's a legal term. It's when law enforcement has probable cause and they have, formally accused someone of a crime. When someone is declared a suspect, it triggers certain legal protections. That person has to be read their Miranda rights. So by not classifying this person as a suspect, they can continue questioning him without reading him his Miranda rights. I want to jump back into kind of a look at the map here, because I can show you a little bit more with fine-grained detail on where this was happening at Utah Valley University and where Charlie Kirk was shot. So as we zoom in, you can see Sorensen Center Courtyard. That's where Charlie Kirk was speaking. He had a little tent down there. We learned just a couple of minutes ago that there were about 3,000 people in the crowd. That's coming from Utah Valley Police. And University Police say they had just 6 officers working security for that crowd of 3,000. As I back out, here's where the critical location is. So come back out to me. This is a building called Lossy Center. And the videos that I showed you, and according to law enforcement.
So do you see what I'm saying? So Charlie was in a canopy thing here. There was 3,000 people around him and people up on the under the canopy with him. And somebody shot him from there and hit him so accurately right in the carotid artery. Well, do you know what? That's like, they've got to be a professional.
That's where they believe the shot was fired. I've measured it out using Google Earth. It's about 150 yards from where Charlie Kirk was. We know from law enforcement there was just one shot fired, a single shot. So we're waiting for information on that. This all happened at 12:20 local time there in Utah. Take a look at the video here. You can see the reaction from the crowd. People just start running. It's chaotic. And so we are obviously waiting and gathering more information on that. I've been monitoring live pictures from the scene. It looks like our camera that's live from the scene just went down. It's been kind of intermittent. I can actually bring it.
Now there's a video, the video is released of him actually getting shot, which, as you say, Dave, it's very graphic. It shouldn't be circulating on social media. It's awful that it's allowed to happen that. But to me, it just looked like he would have been dead instantly. And then there's another video circulating of him being carried out, to the car to be taken to hospital. He looks deceased, bless him. There was so much blood. He couldn't have survived that. I think he would have been instantly dead. I hope he didn't know anything.
Okay, they just brought it back. So this is a live picture of what the university looks like right now. They're kind of directing traffic. We also saw law enforcement moving around with a working dog in.
It's amazing, isn't it? Life goes on. Life goes on. There's Charlie not going home to his wife and kids anymore. And like in the meantime, life goes on and the university carries on. The world carries on revolving, doesn't it?
That courtyard area, obviously gathering evidence. So a lot more to come. Last thing I want to leave you with is this. We've been highlighting throughout the broadcast the emotional impact on this. And I want to bring up a post that just came in from Notre Dame Prep in Scottsdale. This is where Charlie Kirk's wife attended. And they write, "It is with a great sense of sadness and community that we offer our condolences, love, and prayers to Erica Fransby Kirk and her children on the death of her husband and father, Charlie Kirk. Our faith tells us this is not the end. Just as Christ is risen and lives forever, so all of us will rise at the last day." So a lot of emotion here in the newsroom and throughout for folks. Oh, and I can bring up that post. Here's the post I was referencing, but it shows a photo there of Charlie Kirk and his wife, a graduate of Notre Dame Prep in Scottsdale. From the newsroom, I'm Derek Stahl. I'll send it back to you.
So it's very sad, isn't it? I mean, just so sad. You know, whatever you think of him and his views, and as I say, a lot of his views I certainly wouldn't agree with, but nobody should be shot for their views. Nobody. So I hope, like, there's two ways this can go. I suppose it could create a what's the word? Sort of, you know, the thing is, the party, I can't, you know, from what Donald Duck has already said, he's not toning down his political rhetoric, but he's telling everybody else they need to tone down theirs. But he's not coming out, you know, he's the president of America. He's the one who's supposed to be promoting calm in a situation like this now. It should be, let's all, you know, we're all Americans, we're all working together. You know, it shouldn't matter what our views are. These are the sort of things he should be saying. But no, he's not. He's pumping up the rhetoric even more at the same time as telling other people not to. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And yeah, it'll take, I suppose, attention off him. But I really do feel like there's something funny about Donald Trump at the moment. I don't think he is very well, and you know, he's a very elderly man, doesn't it? But you know, he's an elderly man, and there's not many young people. I suppose J.D. Vance would be the obvious replacement if anything did happen to Donald Trump. It'd be J.D. Vance because he's the vice president. At least he's younger, you know, he's got more energy. You know, again, I don't agree with all his views. I agree with some of them. You know, that's it. It's just you can, even Donald Trump, you know, much as I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump, he says something. He said, you know, even a stop clock is right twice a day, isn't it? So, you know, we just have to respect people's views, everyone's, you know, and violence is never the answer. And I wish Donald would be out there saying, look, this is time for calm for America, because America is so polarized. Most places are at the moment, aren't they? Not only America. I worry about Britain, all the violence there. Everyone's so angry at everybody else. You know, you're frightened to give your views. You know, if you say, oh no, Brexit was a big thing, wasn't it, in Britain? People got so angry about it all that anger and aggression. Yeah, it didn't look natural, did it, Bluebell? But he never looks that natural, does he? But no, that's actually not true, because normally, to me, that is not Donald's way of talking. I agree with you. Normally, Donald, that's why the press love him, don't they? Because you never know what he's going to say. You know, he doesn't come out with prepared speeches and stuff. He just starts saying, oh, well, yeah, she's a really nice person, or, you know, or not. Or he just says what he thinks normally without a script. And, you know, probably his aides are sort of there like, oh, God, what's he going to say? But then the press love him because he always says something sensational, because he doesn't think before he puts his mouth in gear normally, does he? But yeah, that did seem strange, because it seemed like that was a very prepared speech. And that is not Trumpian, is it? That is not how Donald Trump normally speaks. He's normally much more spontaneous. So who knows? Maybe it is a distraction. Tell you what, that was a professional who did it anyway, one way or another. Just remind me so much of the JFK assassination. You know, and there he was. How strange that there he was just talking about gun violence. He was literally holding forth about shootings, and then he was shot. It's almost like you couldn't make it up, could you? Is that too much of a coincidence? You know, was that intentional? Anyway. Okay, I'm going. Go and look, you see all my hair's blown with the fan, because it's still hot here. It's 28 degrees. Listen, I'm going, but if you remember, I will see you tonight, and we'll have a more chat. Probably we'll talk about this a little bit as well. There's always lots of things to talk about. So much to chat about and not enough time, isn't it? But thank you for watching. Thank you everyone for watching. I put this on only subscribers only mode because, you know, yesterday we had quite a lot of trolls and they're just so boring and irritating to deal with. I didn't want any trolls on here. But please feel free to leave your comments afterwards. You know, as I say, as long as they're respectful, both to him, you know, both to Charlie and to, you know, people who didn't agree with Charlie's views. You know, we can agree to disagree. Don't have to shoot someone, do you? Anyway, I'm off. I'm going to put, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And most importantly of all, take care of you, because you are the most important person. And my heart goes out to Charlie's family, especially his two children. You know, he'll be growing up without a dad. That's just not right, is it? And also to his wife, and she's got to learn to cope with it. So my heart goes out to her too. And of course, prayers for Charlie himself. And he is a great religious believer. So I hope, you know, that he has gone home to Jesus, that he felt that he was going to do. I hope he has. I hope that is what's happened. So yeah, look after you. You're the most important person. Stay safe. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Bye.